The disaster is finally over for the Tennessee Vols. They move on from Chaz Coleman. The Vols have moved on from sorry, y'all. The Vols have moved on from Chaz Coleman officially. All right. So they are moving in a different direction, man. And it's very interesting to say the least. This whole situation to begin with was pretty much a disaster. And for the second year in a row, Coach Heupel had to deal with a situation similar to this magnitude and a player, right? Now, I think he handled it beautifully. I think they did all they could, right? But there was major question marks raised because when you look at Chaz, he was on Instagram, he was flexing money. But like I said, whatever you do in your free time is your free time. I've never been one of those guys that come for players that come for that do stuff in their free time, and it's nothing that's malicious or bad that's going to hurt the program, right? But it did raise a lot of eyebrows. This did raise a lot of questions, especially when you were like, okay, bro, you can't even show up the screen, right? And that was a red flag right there because, like, okay, they just paid him millions of dollars. I won't say how much it was, but millions of dollars to come over with his defensive coordinator, right? Because Jim Knowles came over, right, to Tennessee. And Chaz Coleman was one of those players, like, okay, yeah, he's going to come with them. It's like two or three other players as well. And he was supposed to be one of those guys on the edge for obviously Tennessee, but he never showed up. He was never there, right? So it gets to a point where it's like your patience wears thin, and they're going to say medically disqualified, of course, right? And obviously say he's dealing with some homesick issues and being away from family, and things like that. I don't think anything's medically wrong with him in terms of physically, right? Now I could be wrong, right? I'm just estimating. I'm just what I'm saying, assessing. I just think they got to a point where it was like, okay, dude, like we're finna get to these summer workouts. We still haven't probably really seen you for real, and we gotta start focusing because fall camp's right around the corner, man. Like we can't continue to play this game. I think for Coach Heupel, you have to do that for your program, right? You have to get to a point where you can do that because you don't want the same situation bleeding into a new year with a new team, right? No disrespect to Boo Carter, great player, phenomenal talent, but you had to deal with that issue as well, right? He didn't really show up, nowhere to be found, nowhere to be seen, right? And even some of the players, the leaders, the captains of Tennessee wanted him kicked off. But Heupel did as much as he could, kept him on the squad, right? And then eventually things towards the end kind of fell off. But you don't want to have that same issue back to back seasons. So I think it was the right choice, right, for Tennessee. I think they did good in letting them go. And that's just is what it is at that point because it's like we don't need another issue in a locker room when we're trying to. A lot of people say, okay, it was a disappointing year, but remember, Tennessee wasn't expected to win that many games last year. They're expected to be a bottom dweller, and they still won 8 games with Joey Aguilar and a new look team, even though defense wasn't as good as people had expected, right? So this is I don't say a big year for Heupel, but this is a year they got to take another step forward, right? And we know they've been to a CFP playoff. Can you make a big difference this year? Like that's going to be one of the biggest questions, and you don't need distractions going into that. All right, but let's read the On Three article and see what it had to say about Chaz Coleman. Okay, this is from Pete Nakos. All right, so let's see where he gave it. Okay, so the pass rusher was absent from summer workouts last week before resurfacing in Knoxville on Friday. He had been medically disqualified from the Volunteers roster. He was absent from the second half of the Volunteer spring practice, and at the time, his status with the program moving forward was unclear. Voluntary workouts began earlier this month at Tennessee, and he officially missed his report date. Chaz has been dealing with some things. We're here to support him. Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel told On 3 on Wednesday at SEC spring meetings. We'll continue to go through that process, right? This is what Knowles had to say about him back in February. He's explosive. He's difficult to block. He has a little bit of an invisible cloak where he can twist, turn, and beat guys one-on-one. He's great initial quickness off the ball. So he's a guy that can create havoc for an offense and really creates a matchup issue, right? So nothing really crazy, nothing too much into detail off of that report. But as you guys can see, that is what was said via Pete Nakos, the national reporter, on 3. Okay. So, like I said, once again, just the failure to report. Like I said, it gets old at a certain point. It's like, bro, what the hell? So it's like when you coach hyper, like I said, you're trying to focus on the season, you don't need that. You know what I'm saying? So not reporting, not showing up, and it's bled into the summer. Yeah, we gotta let you go, bro. We gotta let you go. That's just the bottom line. We gotta let you go. We gotta move on to what's next for us in the program and what we're trying to do, generate, and obviously be about. Right. So what does that look like for Tennessee? Right. Let's pull up a roster. Okay. So they're gonna have some new players in there. Right. What freshmen can help contribute off the edge? They all have them all ranked as defensive linemen. Hezekiah Harris from Huntsville, Alabama. May Jemison is a pretty good player, right? Great upside, pretty smooth. Breeze Carter, right, is another one from Douglas County that was able to get late over Georgia Tech in that cycle. He's another really good edge rusher. You know what I'm saying? We'll see if he can contribute during his freshman campaign and his freshman season, right? So that would be one to watch as well, And then, you got Kendrick Golston, right? Another freshman. Can he have an impact this year for the Tennessee Volunteers, right? With everything that just happened, right? We're going to find out. Okay. Let's see also about defensive line for Tennessee. Let me see. Make sure I don't miss any names. Okay, yeah, we know about Christian Gass. He redshirted last year. Okay, he should have an impact this year. Trying to see the big names that are supposed to contribute. Know about Jaden Parlati, know about Justin Harmon, right? Ethan Utley. That might be the name to watch this year for Tennessee as far as the defensive line. Now, I know they got a transfer coming in that came in from Tulane. He had a very productive let me see if I can pull that up. He had a very productive spring. Yeah, Jordan Norman is going to be one to watch for Tennessee moving forward with Chaz Coleman out. Right, he had a very productive, I heard, spring. You know what I'm saying, for the Vols. So he's going to be one to watch on the defensive line. And obviously, they have a lot of really good freshmen coming in as well, and some good veterans, Davin Hobbs, and so many more. So watch out for some of those names to kind of be those contributors, kind of be those players that are up next playing for this program and for this team. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see who emerges, right? Fall camp's going to tell us a lot about the D line and who's going to be taking those steps forward and who is next. So, unfortunate situation, but if you're Tennessee, like I said, you got to move on, right? That's just the reality of the situation. You got to move on, see what else is out there. And I ain't saying they're going to bring somebody in, but you got to develop what you already have, right? And like I said, you can't have this same issue 2 seasons in a row, right? So I think those are going to be the names to watch. Jordan Norman, you know what I'm saying? You know about some of the freshmen, in there should be able to make a difference. Davin Hobbs, as I mentioned, is definitely going to be one to watch out for. I think he should have a big impact this upcoming season, right? Marion Dye, he's going to be another one, sophomore. You know what I'm saying? Defensive lineman, 6'5". You know what I'm saying? Watch out for him as well. He should be able to make an impact for Tennessee. And like I said, Ethan Utley is going to be another one for me, man. So we'll see who emerges. Fall camp is going to tell us a lot. Is it a true freshman? Will they rotate some guys over? You know what I'm saying? Who can make the big impact early on for Tennessee is going to be the biggest question with Chaz Coleman being out of there. All right. So that's what it is. That is the breaking news for the Tennessee Volunteers. Chaz Coleman no longer with the program, medically disqualified, and no longer on the roster. And like I said, if you coach Heupel, you did it right, right? You cannot have the same issue 2 years in a row. You just can't, right? I got to think about what's best for my program, and I don't need two distractions with a pretty big upcoming season for me and my program as we try to take the next step in a new era, right? New quarterback at the helm. You didn't really hit the portal this year. You believe in what you had, kind of the freshmen coming in, the talent that you had. Well, you did hit the portal. You obviously brought in the Colorado quarterback. You know what I'm saying? But now you're in a situation where it got to make sense. Got to figure it out. And I think you made the right decision. Made the right decision. Got to move on. You know what I'm saying? So no surprise for real because we knew what was happening behind the scene. We knew he wasn't showing up, wasn't reporting, and you paid all that money. So I felt for Tennessee because they gonna pay you. They gonna make sure you're straight. They gonna give you the NIL you need. But now these players like you're getting paid, bro. You got to do what you got to do. You got to step up. You got to go. You know what I'm saying, to practice. It's not that hard. You know what I'm saying? If you need time, cool. But like millions of dollars changing your family's life, changing your life, it's not that hard to show up, bro. So I don't I feel sympathy, but I don't at the same time. Like, get the help you need, of course. Make sure you got the right resources. But if you're getting paid millions of dollars, bro, it's not hard to just show up and do what you're supposed to do. It really ain't. It really ain't. So we'll leave it there, man. That's my reaction. That's my thoughts, man. Tennessee officially moves on from Chaz Coleman. Appreciate you guys as always. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hype up the video, and I'll see you guys soon. And guys, always remember, as always, peace and love.